when their children were 2 years old, they would tattoo Ramnam on their foreheads. And then they left it up to the kids to tattoo the rest of their bodies if they chose to. And many of them did. But after 1974, when they had to go off to work, and people in other states would ridicule them for being tattooed, they started thinking about it, and they said, you know, this tradition of tattooing your body with Ramnam is something that is very dear to us, but we shouldn't force it on our kids. So they stopped the tradition. And they said, if you're my daughter, you're my son, and you want to get tattooed, chapakaro. But we're not going to do it. Just because we have a belief in that practice, that doesn't mean you have to have a belief in that practice. Because tattooing and Ramnami's got identified. You can see the verses. See, so like what she's wearing right now probably has at least 30,000 handwritten repetitions of Ramnam. To make something like that, if you're sitting and doing it 8 hours a day, and it's done as a most of them that I knew in those days have died, or have retired. You don't do very few of them. So the first mailer was 1909, 1910. So around 2003, 2004, I was talking with some of the Ramnami elders, and I said, so what do you think's going to happen with the tradition? They said, well, you know, we started 93, 94 years ago. 100 is a good round number. If we have 100 mailers, we've done a lot. It's been meaningful to us. If it's not meaningful to our kids, then it's not meaningful to them. We just hope that they can continue to chant Ramnam in whatever vehicle or realistic view. Got married when she was 14. Typical in that area. When I was first there, I would be in marriages with 13 and 14-year-old girls. I was in a marriage of a 12-year-old girl last year. So the practice goes on. We're trying to change the group that I'm involved with by getting girls educated. Because an educated girl is less likely to get married at 13 and 14 years old. Anyway, so she got married, she was 13 or 14. By the time she was 16, 17, she hadn't gotten pregnant yet. She came to me and said, can you help me? Now, because I was a that studied audiomation. And I said, yeah, there are verbs that we can think about, but in kind of doing a diagnosis of her and her husband, it became obvious to me that the problem wasn't hers. The problem was the husband's. But traditionally in India, you don't blame the husband, you blame the wife, right? And so I tried to kind of let her know. I said, yeah, I see the problem, but you know, maybe he might, maybe he should take medicine. Oh, it must be me. And don't tell him you're taking medicine for me. So it made it very difficult. So after another couple of years, maybe, so she said to her husband, I'm going to find you another wife. Now in that area, the only time a guy can marry a second wife is if his first wife has no children. So he told her. And she said, she told him, I want to find you a second wife. And he said, sure. So that we can have children. And he said, Ramji ki ruchi hai. Garbati na ho Ramji ki ruchi hai. But she didn't buy it. she wanted to get that way. So I was gone for about a year. I came back into the village. First I got back to the sheep. First I was there, she ran up to drag me. She said, I want to see what I got. And it was a young girl that she had found in a nearby village. And that's his second one. And so she became the second one. A couple of years went by, still no kids. And then it turned out that he had prostate cancer. And he died about a year or two later. So now we have the two women, she and her. Oh, what was interesting when she first introduced me to this other girl, by that time, she was in her early 20s by the time she actually found this girl. She said, oh, you really like her. She really likes it. She listens to everything I tell her. Very important for a second one. So, he died. They inherited the land. And what they did is they found an orphan child, an orphan girl, and they adopted her. And so now they're raising her. And now, because he actually he was one of the wealthier of the Ramnamis. They use their land to support Ramnami, the various things. So they have a festival every year at their village. So this is during the Sirana chant, which is kind of a break there chanting. So when they're chanting, they'll wear their shawls. Mukut and ornament. Okay, they don't call it a shawl, not a shawl, it's ornament. And ornament is actually what they call a sari in that area. So they refer to. Okay, I think I've told you a lot about the Ramnamis. Contemporary times now, they're melas, they still have the melas. The first one was first in, I'm going to show you a little bit of video from the melas that I took in the late 70s and early 80s. The melas today are very different. Now it's hum, basically. Cinema shows up, the circus shows up, all the ducans show up, 100,000 people show up, and maybe 200 Ramnamis show up. So they now have just an excuse for everybody else to follow. So the mela no longer really is a Ramnami, even though it's called that. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, let me show you a little bit. Yeah.
Does the studies is an outward expression of their bhakti
And
not their thought?
well, that's the thing, right? To be able to imbibe and to go deep within a concept is something that we learn with age and experience. So for their young people, because they've been grown up to think that a Ramnami is somebody who's tattooed, if they are not tattooed, are they really a Ramnami? Yeah, now the bhakti for Ramnam is something that is a part of Chhattisgarh. Okay, Ram Bhakti is very much a part of Chhattisgarh, very much a part of Madhya Pradesh. Still you go to the villages and you're greeted with Ram Ram. Right? Still you go into the villages and you, okay, he couldn't find enough feathers, so he made his own version of that. And the next one, also this is so back to the idea of bhakti. The bhakti is there. The time I'm there, I talk with people about it. I talk with kids about it, how they understand the tradition. They still realize the value of Ramnam. And when we talk about it, they tell us, our parents and our grandparents, some of our grandparents had to wear a bell. Some of our grandparents were treated really badly. But Ramnam gave them unity. Ramnam gave them a sense of self. That Ramnam must be pretty powerful. And remember that. So one of the things I'm doing, some of the images that I'm going to show you, some of the video I'm going to show you, the video I took 30 years ago that I just got digitized. I'm taking it back to show some of them now, to help them remember. It's difficult. The external world is very seductive. The material world is very seductive. And some of us never get it in this lifetime. Some of us very young. But at the same time, I know a girl, she's now 15. She had the manas memorized at 12. Remember, this is from a supposedly illiterate caste. So, because the writing of the Unravelling took so long, this guy started using a woodblock, which made it a little easier, different, and and a lot of the Ramnamis don't necessarily like it. But anyway, go ahead. This is really common in the village to see. Just designing their house that way.